T-minus 1 minute. T-minus 30 seconds. We are go for launch. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're here to talk to you today about space station research and how we communicate about it. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Erin, and we're coming to you from Houston, Texas.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to day 2 of our NASA Social for the Demo 2 mission. Tomorrow, we will return the capability of human spaceflight to U.S. soil with the launch of NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley to the International Space Station. We have a full day of great shows for you guys today. I'm Madison Tuttle here with NASA Communications, and with me taking all your questions on social media is my partner in crime, Stephanie Plusinski.
Thanks, Madison. Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie Plusinski with NASA Communications. And next up, we're going to hang out with 2 incredible women from Johnson Space Center. And they're going to be talking a little bit more about the International Space Station. As always, if you have a question, feel free to leave it in the comments section, and we may answer it live here on this segment.
So as Steph said, we have 2 great guests with us today. But first, we want to roll a video that kind of talks about space station research.
Hey NASA Social crowd, my name's Rachel Berry, and I'm very excited to get to talk with you guys today. I wish we could be together in person. I usually get to hang out with you guys whenever there's a launch down at Kennedy Space Center, but since we couldn't be there together in person today, we're going to have a chance to talk to you about some really amazing stuff that's happening on the space station, and hopefully we'll keep you entertained. I would like to introduce my good friend and colleague, Erin Anthony.
Hey guys, so yeah, I'm really excited to be with you today. Typically, I don't get to come down to Kennedy for the NASA Social, so really excited that I can actually be involved since we are doing it virtually this time, and hoping that we can share with you a little bit about what we do, how we got to NASA, and why station science is so awesome. So to kick it off, I'll pass it over to Rachel just to talk a little bit about what we do and like why we're here talking to you today connected with the Demo 2 launch.
Our office, we are based in Houston, Texas at Johnson Space Center, and we are part of the International Space Station Program Research Office. And that means this is the group that manages and organizes all the science that's happening on the space station, because the whole point of the space station is that it's this massive football field size orbiting laboratory, and we can conduct really amazing research there that helps us back here on Earth, as well as test a lot of the technologies and things that we're going to need to know to use to travel further out into space. And so Erin and I are very lucky to be part of a communications team that is embedded within that office. So our day-to-day jobs are literally getting to share the stories of the science that's happening on the space station, working with astronauts to help them understand the science that they're conducting each day, and get to share that with you guys. And it's really incredible. It's a lot of fun. And of course, you know, now we are getting ready to launch Americans from American soil on an American rocket for the first time in almost a decade. And what does that mean for us in science on the space station? Well, it's a big part of how we're going to continue to increase what we're able to do on the space station and have more time for more science, which means more benefits to us and stronger exploration efforts. So we're really excited to share that with you guys here today, share some other resources for how you can learn more about what we're doing and get to follow along with all the fun.
Yeah, and what's pretty cool is in those jobs too, we also get to use social media. So part of our job is sharing these messages through Twitter and Instagram. I help run the ISS Research Twitter account. And so it's cool to be able to talk to you guys who are such avid social media users when part of the storytelling that we do is through that social media. So in talking about that, I think it's a good bridge to talk about how we both came to NASA because, we both have a little bit of social media and, storytelling in our backgrounds.
So my background is actually in journalism. I have a journalism degree and I've been using social media for, 10 to 15 years now, just on different platforms. And a big part of what got me to NASA was actually Twitter, because about 10 or 12 years ago, there was a group of really avid space enthusiasts on Twitter called the Space Tweets. And I was able to connect with a lot of folks and make a lot of great connections and form a lot of friendships. Some of my very best friends today are people I met through that. So that's why I tend to identify a lot with the NASA social crowd, because I was part of that crowd. Back in the day, they were called tweet ups. We didn't have NASA socials, we had tweet ups. And I would meet people and literally we would share a house. And these are people I had only met on the internet, and we would share a house to watch a shuttle launch. I had been a space geek from a young age, space camp when I was 12, always loved it, followed along with the shuttle missions. But it was really that turn in creating community around social media and space enthusiasts that helped get me to where I am now. And it also ended up helping connect me to Erin, which she can share on how she got here as well.
Yeah, specifically on how I actually got this job, I found the job through Twitter. So I would often search like hashtags like SciComm job and stuff to find new jobs and stuff for me. And I came across a tweet that Rachel had put out saying that there was a job opening at the company that was doing social media and storytelling and science communication for the space station. And I was like, this is amazing. I've never seen a job like this before, and jumped on it and was lucky enough to be able to get it. So pretty amazing. I'd say I would not have gotten this job without Twitter. So that's pretty wild. But I similar to Rachel, I grew up absolutely loving space. I grew up in Florida, so not too far from Kennedy Space Center. I grew up in Tampa and also had family that worked on the shuttle and on the Apollo program. So our family just always had a really tight, connection to space and really valued space, which is a cool thing to be able to grow up in that atmosphere of having a telescope in my grandpa's backyard to go out and look at the stars and to be able to go to launches. I actually went to the last shuttle launch, I think it was over summer when I was in high school, and drove over there with my mom, and it was a really cool experience. So now, really awesome to be a part of NASA when we're launching again from American soil. It's such a cool bookend to where I really got into it and felt that inspiration to now actually being at NASA and be able to help share that story. So yeah, excited to help connect you guys to that today too.
I was there as well for that last shuttle launch. The first shuttle launch I saw was STS-130, which is the mission that installed the cupola, the big beautiful bay window on the space station. And that was actually 10 years ago this February that launched. And I was at that launch because I was covering it for a publication called Make Magazine. And if you had told me when I was standing out at the press site by the countdown clock watching this launch, if you had said to me then, in 10 years, you're going to be working at NASA, you're going to be, completely embedded in all of the science that's happening on the space station, I would have thought you were crazy. And so it is, just like Erin said, it's a great bookend. That's why I always love talking to the NASA social crowds, because it is sort of a complete full circle from where I had been in my career before, and I never would have thought that I'd end up here. So it's pretty cool.
And mentioning the cupola, you gave me a good plug. I have to show off. I have a skirt on right now that is a picture that was taken from the cupola on the space station. So part of our job is we get to look at a ton of the pictures that come down from the space station, and it's just seeing those beautiful pictures all day. I just could not find a way to turn that into something I could wear. We both love space fashion. You can tell by the shirts we're both wearing. So, so yeah, I had to mention that.
That's awesome. I love that skirt so much.
Thanks. And in addition to that, looking at tons of pictures, do you want to talk a little bit more about what you do on a daily basis, Rachel, in connection with station science?
Yeah, absolutely. Day to day, we're keeping up with what's happening on the space station. There's all kinds of reports that come through emails and things like that. We look at all the pictures that come down from the space station, which can be hundreds to thousands in a week. And we're just understanding what science the astronauts are conducting each day, also looking at what science is coming up. So we have commercial resupply missions launched to the space station every couple of months. And so we look at those, we understand what science is going to be launched. We talk to the scientists, we work with them for televised briefings, telephone briefings, feature stories that we write. And so that's really what we're doing, is we are just immersed in the science that's happening on the station and then figuring out how to best communicate that with the public. So sometimes that may be a feature story on nasa.gov. Sometimes it may be collaborating with Instagram to do a story on their account. And it's just ways to communicate all that science and connect with the general public so they know what the space station is doing for them and why it's important.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting. I just started here in July, and over this time that I've been here, you really get to appreciate how much the space station is really bringing to humanity and to like exploration and stuff. Because, you know, I've always loved space, obviously, and I knew it was up there and I knew generally what it was doing, but there are just so many experiments happening. They're doing so many incredible things. You know, the stats has nearly been 3,000 experiments now that have been up there in the 20 years that humans have been on board. This year is actually the 20th anniversary of continuous human presence on the space station. So there has been so much that's happened in almost every area of science, ranging from the alpha magnetic spectrometer that looks at dark matter to microgravity crystals and other protein crystal growth experiments that have analyzed crystal growth, which can help with drug development here on Earth. So, you know, you can understand it at the surface level, but then in this job, getting to dive in and really see all the experiments that the astronauts are working on a daily basis has been really incredible.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I always joke that I feel like I'm getting like another degree because of all the stuff that I've learned over the last 5 years. You really start to understand this stuff, and it's fascinating. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the job, is getting to learn something new every single day.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite experiments that you've seen happen over the years, Rachel?
Gosh. Oh, that's a good question.
I know there's been so many, but
I'm trying to think, and I've done a lot lately of like looking back, because we're also celebrating this year the 20th anniversary of continuous human presence aboard the space station. So we've been looking back a lot about or at all the things that have happened. And so I've seen like, oh, I remember that. That was really cool. That was really fun. Because one of the cool things that we get to do when we are on site at JSC, we're all working from home now, obviously, but when we're on site at JSC, we actually can plug in and watch the live feeds from the space station on several different camera angles. And so something that I always would love to do was watching the astronauts work on experiments in real time. And I would just be blown away that I could sit at my desk and, you know, here's this space station 250 miles above the Earth, you know, flying or orbiting at 17,500 miles an hour, and I'm watching an HD feed of someone conducting an experiment. And so a couple of those that I've had fun watching, one was when we were doing the first sequencing of DNA on the space station, and that was with Kate Rubins several years ago. I want to say maybe 2016, 2017, and then watching that, because that was one of the early experiments that I saw happen within like a year starting at NASA. And so now we've had several iterations of that experiment where we've gone from just, yes, we can sequence DNA in space, to yes, we can go from swabbing to sampling and sequencing, or swabbing the sample and sequencing on space station. Yes, we can sequence RNA on space station. Yes, we can use CRISPR on space station. And so to be able to watch the progression of that experiment and that series of experiments has been really fascinating.
Yeah, and for me, my background is actually mechanical engineering before I went down this storytelling route. So one of the ones I've loved watching recently is Astro Bee, which is this pair of, or was it 3 robots on the space station. There are these cubes that are basically serving as like an autonomous assistant to the astronauts. Well, they're testing it right now. It's a technology demonstration, and then they're also hoping to do some experiments on board these. And 1, they're adorable, and 2, it's really cool the technology that they're actually testing. So, and that's one, again, that we've been able to watch on the live streams, which is really awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. Just the variety, and that speaks to the variety of what's happening on the space station, because you have all disciplines of science: biological, physical, environmental. We have incredible instruments that are watching our planet from the space station and taking all kinds of measurements on everything from carbon to measuring the canopies of the Earth's forests. We have astronauts taking pictures of the Earth that are beautiful, but also can contribute to things like disaster response and understanding changes on our planet from any kind of disasters that happen, and to technology development and even educational activities that we do, like the ham radio, where kids can get on a ham radio and talk directly to the astronauts on the space station. And so just the breadth of science that happens up there is amazing, and sometimes a little hard to wrap your head around. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then to bring all that back to why we're talking to you guys today, Demo 2, astronauts launching as part of the Commercial Crew Program, and we're really excited because more people on station means more time to do science. And actually, typically the number of people on station is the standard crew for the U.S. operating segment is 3, and by increasing up to 4, it doubles the amount of time available for science. So we're super excited seeing what gets to come in the next year or 2 about how many more people up there is going to enable us to do all of this life-changing science.
Yeah. It's pretty phenomenal. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And so I think we're about out of time. So Rachel, do you want to give any plugs to some places that people can check out all this cool stuff we've been talking about that we're producing?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, there is the Twitter account, ISS_research, where you can get constant doses of space station science news. We also post through the ISS Instagram account, which is just @ISS, the ISS Facebook account, which is also @ISS. And then you'll also see through all of the big channels like the NASA flagship channel, you'll see projects and things like that come out from us. Another project that we did recently that's really incredible was called the NASA Explorers series, and our season of that series was called Microgravity. And in that season, we take you behind the scenes for a look at what it takes to get science planned and launched and executed and returned on the space station. And so we followed a team of scientists for 2 years as they did this, as they prepped their work, as the astronauts worked on it on space station, and as it splashed back down in the ocean from a Dragon capsule and got back to the scientists for their analysis and results. And it gives you a really cool look at how many people it takes, at the amount of work that it takes, and just what happens in the lifespan of an experiment. And so you can check that out on the NASA flagship channel. There's a microgravity playlist there. And then, of course, on nasa.gov, you can keep up with all of our feature stories and things like that as well.
Yeah, and so since we're not there to do Q&A, if you guys have any questions, feel free to tweet at ISS_research account. So thank you guys so much for joining. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. We'd love to talk to you, and hope you have an awesome time watching this launch.
Yeah, absolutely. Have fun, soak it up. Take advantage of all the opportunities. Even if you can't be there in person, there's still so much that can be done online, and so much interesting stuff that you can share with your followers who we think they'll really enjoy all of this. So thank you for your interest, your care, your passion, and keep it up.
Yeah. Oh, bye.
So we'll jump right in and introduce our guest today. First up, we have Rachel Berry, who is joining us from Houston, Texas. Rachel, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, you probably just got to fill your complete fill of this, so of what we get to do every day, which is a true dream job. So yeah, sharing stories of science that happens on the space station.
Perfect. And then joining us as well is Erin Anthony, also in Houston, Texas. Erin, you want to give us a quick intro to what you do?
Sure, yeah. I get to work really closely with Rachel on sharing these stories of space station science. And the best thing is being able to help write all of this and share on social media, which is perfect for talking to a NASA social audience.
Yes, for sure. So we're going to jump right in with your questions.
All right, so we have one question from our audience. They want to know, how does the research in space help prepare to send humans on a journey to Mars and beyond?
That's an awesome
that's a great question. I can start that one off, but right now we're looking a lot into how it can help us get to the moon and then how we can go on from there to Mars. The space station is an environment where people can live in space long term. So we're able to learn both about how the human body behaves in response to the microgravity environment and to space. But we're also able to test technologies that will help us live on the moon. For example, BEAM. It's an expandable module that is connected to the space station, and we were able to test how an expandable module could work in space, and then later we can transfer it on to our exploration on the moon and possibly to Mars. So this is going on. I don't know, Rachel, do you have any others you want to mention too?
Yeah, absolutely. In the last year or two, we've had a series of experiments called MIX, which is understanding how cement solidifies in microgravity, and looking at that as an option for being able to, use the materials that are on the moon, the regolith, and create 3D printed structures. So this study was doing that first step of understanding how does cement even set up in microgravity, and there have been some really interesting results from that. So those are just a couple of the ways that what we're studying is helping us get further out into space.
Really cool. Thank you to you both. I have another one from Kurt, and he wants to know, how many hours per day do astronauts work versus time off? How much of their work day is doing research versus maintenance?
That's a great question. They usually have about 12-hour work days, and it depends, it fluctuates on how much of that time is spent doing science versus maintenance. Usually, and I would have to check with our players to confirm, but usually about 80-20 split on the science and maintenance. They also have to spend about 2 hours a day doing exercise to make sure that their bones and muscles stay healthy. But yeah, we've had astronauts talk about how in the morning they can be plumbers working on the toilet, and in the afternoon they're working on cancer research. So it's a pretty diverse work day for them, for sure.
Definitely an interesting life those astronauts have. So we have another question for you. How can students get involved in space station research?
Yeah, I'll start this off. One interesting thing to mention, it might seem unrelated, but it is actually would have been Sally Ride's birthday, and she left a pretty cool legacy as far as involvement with education and research. We have a really cool program called EarthCam. I'll let Rachel talk on it though a little bit. She is a huge Sally Ride fan, so I can't take it from her.
No. Yeah, so EarthCam is an awesome program that we have a camera that's on the space station, and students can actually sign up, teachers and students can sign up to be able to program that camera on the space station to snap pictures of different parts of the world and then get those pictures back to them. So they're actually able to interact and take these pictures on the space station. And I am a huge Sally Ride fan. I have a Sally Ride tattoo because she's just a really inspiring educator and scientist, and a big advocate for representation in science. And so we love that we get to continue that legacy on the space station.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. So we have time for one more question. What is the most exciting thing about space for both of you guys? Might be a hard one.
Everything. I'd say for me, the human aspect. I've always been a huge fan of human spaceflight and what humans are able to bring to this. It's amazing that humans have created this space program, that we make all this stuff happen, and it's incredible to watch humans conduct this research in space every day. So for me, it's all about the people. Erin?
Yeah, and I just joined this team last July, so a lot of the time I've been looking at space from the outside, and for the last year I've been able to really experience the hard work that people put into it on the inside. And honestly, it's not just the humans that are in space, but the camaraderie of everyone on the ground who's working together on this joint mission. It's the international collaboration that's involved with space, and the human collaboration is really incredible. The people we get to work with, the people we get to see that are helping spread this message through communications and everything. It's really a joy to work on this truly worldwide project and really see the outcomes and benefits to humanity that come from it. It's not just about going further to Mars, it's really about what we can do here on Earth and help learn more about our planet as well.
Yes, absolutely. Great answers from both of you. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I just want to say thank you to Erin and Rachel for taking the time to video chat with us. Wish you two were here in person, of course, but thank you for chatting with us. Don't go away. We actually have another episode coming up in just a few minutes for all the educators and students out there who are looking to learn a little bit more about the mission and some interactive activities they can do. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with you soon.